Hi, today's reading is Matthew chapter 17. The previous chapter ended with a prediction. Some of those with Jesus would die before seeing him coming into his kingdom. And that is what happens 6 days later when Jesus selects Peter, James, and John to climb a high mountain with him. Once there, they see Jesus transfigured into his glorious reality, his face shining like the sun, and his clothes gleaming white as light. Not only that, but the three disciples also see Moses and Elijah, who were dead, standing and talking with Jesus. Peter, ever eager to act, feels the need to say something in response to this wonder. In awestruck haste, he offers to build three tents, one for each of these figures. That suggestion is literally interrupted by a voice from heaven. God the Father arrives in a bright cloud and describes himself as being well pleased with Jesus, his beloved Son. He commands the disciples to listen to Jesus. They fall to their faces in terror, and when they look up again, everything has returned to normal. Jesus commands them to tell no one about this until after his resurrection. They return to the base of the mountain to find the remaining nine disciples in a crowd of people. A man kneels before Jesus and asks him to have mercy on his son. The boy has seizures caused by a demon, which make him to fall into water and fire and hurt himself. This detail distinguishes the boy's condition as being different from something natural like epilepsy. The man tells Jesus that the disciples could not heal the boy. Jesus responds in exasperation. These are the same men whom he'd earlier empowered to perform these type of tasks. They seem to be doubting their mission. He asks them how long he would have to put up with this faithless generation. He rebukes the demon, and the boy is healed. When he was asked by the disciples why they could not cast out the demon, Jesus said it is because of their little faith. With even a mustard seed sized faith, nothing is impossible for them. Jesus tells the disciples once again about his impending death. He would be betrayed and handed over to those who would murder him. But more important, he told of his resurrection. Unfortunately, the disciples only heard the first part and became discouraged. They couldn't understand why Jesus would want to go back to Jerusalem, where he would walk right into trouble. Back in Jesus' adopted town of Capernaum, the collectors of the annual temple tax approached Peter. They asked if Jesus would pay the required sum that was required by every Jewish man who was 60 years old or older. Most likely, they were not really wondering, but were actually there to collect the payment. Peter said yes, that Jesus would pay it. But before Peter could bring this up to him, Jesus explained that as the Son of God, he was exempt from tax. However, Jesus agrees to pay the tax to avoid causing offense over the issue. He commands Peter to get the money for the tax by catching a fish in the Sea of Galilee. Peter would find a shekel coin in the mouth of the first fish that he catches, and he should use that coin to pay the tax for both himself and for Jesus. The disciples couldn't fully comprehend the purpose of Jesus' death and resurrection until Pentecost. They didn't know that Jesus' death and resurrection would make his kingdom possible. We shouldn't get upset at ourselves for being slow to understand everything about Jesus. After all, the disciples were with him, saw his miracles, heard his words, and still had difficulty understanding. Despite their questions and doubts, however, they still believed, and so should we.